They're only up by 11 right now, but there's still plenty of time. I need 21 points. This is going to be good. Holy crap. Ruby. Ruby is
Yay!
here, or at least, she's in the Discord. Oh, did you see the we're not allowed to publicly talk about it, but did you see the email that we got about the thing?
Yeah, yep.
I like it. I like it. I can't wait until we can go official with it.
Yep. Okay, so I need your input on this part.
Okay.
And anybody that's listening to this broadcast is going to be like, what the hell? So, what is a catchy but annoying song?
Catchy but annoying. Oh, Christ.
There's tons. I just...
Yeah, that's the problem. There's so many. I can't think of one off the top of my head right now. Catchy but annoying. Mambo number 5.
Yay! That's perfect. Yes. I'm not putting it in just yet, but yeah. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Oh,
okay.
God. Oh, this is going to hurt.
Don't worry. I'm not there yet. I'm still typing the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm still typing the other stuff. That's what worries me. Microsoft is allowing their employees to work from home permanently. Yay for relocation. Now, if only, certain government entities would get on board with that. Not naming names or anything, just saying. That have no meaning to perfection. Also, for everybody watching, or listening,
oh, sorry,
you have less than 1 week to vote in our award show. We're closing the voting next Saturday afternoon. I didn't want to, or not that but I couldn't resist. I looked at a couple of the votes so far. Some of them are tied. Just saying. Ruby, I'm here. Yay.
Oh, boy.
So
I really love the fact that I try a philosophical, can God make something so heavy you can't lift it? And to which the other response is, well, even if he did, so what? Like, he just kind of just like, whatever, man, you can say that. I'll still be here.
He's like, and basically, and your point is,
yeah,
kind of deal. Yeah, it's Yeah, this gonna be a good one.
Yeah. And now I'm starting to sweat in terms of like with his response, kind of like legit, like, oh boy, this is not going well. Whoops. Just-
Although if you're looking for, you know, I don't know if I'd call it annoying, but catchy. The song that's in my head right now, for whatever ungodly reason, what these bitches want, DMX and Cisco.
No, you know, it's funny. I was thinking of that song last week sometime, totally random. But no. We need something. Oh man, I just kind of realized we can't use too much of it because we don't have to want to pay for it.
No,
But
I know. Yeah, well,
so that's why I think Mambo number 5 was a great choice. The other one that just came to mind is Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. You know, like just okay. Anyway,
or if we want to date ourselves
Mm.
and just prove just exactly how old we are.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the hamster dance.
What? What? Oh no. Oh no. Something else just came to mind, and I can't believe it was. I mean, I have one. It's just that some people started singing it, not knowing what it was.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to say somebody once told me there was
I
a
know.
really
I know. But in this case, like, there's something meta about the song that that doesn't end. Uh,
listen. We'll
it doesn't matter.
we'll
It doesn't
write
matter. I'm
when we
sorry.
get to
I'm
that
sorry.
point.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's we'll
Yeah.
we'll write when we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm loving what you're writing so far, and I know for the folks watching right now that you can't see what Doc is coming up with, but I assure you, for this skit, it will be very entertaining. Oh, let's see. Forgot to mention. I have to. I got to tweet that we're live.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be on the Twitters. And let's see what's here. We got the. Never realized until I showed that movie to my son that the hamster dance is just a sped up version of the opening theme from Disney's Robin Hood. Huh. I guess I'll have to go back and re-listen to it. mean, like the Odelade, Odelady. That's one of those Disney movies I haven't seen recently. Yeah, I haven't seen the Robin Hood with the Disney version in 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
14-10 Notre Dame. Come on. Don't have this be the game that Florida State decides that they want to show up. I need to round robin my parlay. Otherwise, it's going to be a very expensive losing day for me. Now Matt's got me thinking about hamster dance, sped up, Robin Hood song. Sped up sample from the song Whistle Stop, written and performed by Roger Miller for the 1973 Walt Disney Productions film Robin Hood. Son of a bitch.
Oh, did not know that.
No, nor did I. I assumed when he was talking about the opening song, it was Oodalali, because that's, to me, that's like the opening with the. Huh. Well, I'll be darned. Son of a. That is legit. Okay.
What?
No, I just listened to Whistle Stop from Robin Hood, and it
okay.
is.
Oh, okay.
It is legit. I also think that the Robin Hood movie was the birth of furrydom for probably a whole generation of children. And that has nothing to do with the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But now you won't be able to unthink it. And Florida State is winning 17-14. What the hell, man?
Oh, well.
Matt's probably throwing stuff in his TV right now.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm going this route. Because clearly I wouldn't want to mumble this like out loud, but since he already has sort of these kind of powers anyway, he would know what I'm doing and or figure out what I'm doing once I actually put thoughts and words to it, and that's going to be my end. But yeah.
Affirmations. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, people like me.
Oh, I'm not done. Several.
Still waiting on that frequency, Kenneth.
Oh man.
That's I'd say that's a deep cut. It's an older cut.
Hmm.
It's an older meme, sir, but it still checks out. I think I had that album. Was that Monster? It's 1994. God damn, I'm old. Not as old as you. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
And today is World Mental Health Day.
Yeah.
Matt, now I'm picturing Al Franken as ego, and it really kind of works. You should see what Doc is cooking up right now for this.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's be honest. Anthony gave me a good setup, and I had so many ideas. His setup led me in one direction, and I've been able to incorporate two ideas, including one variation that I just tweaked as we were talking. Not to mention, if you are a fan of pre-1950s, 1960s science fiction, I may go off on a bit of a tangent during the episode. Just a warning. Okay. All right, I'll leave it alone.
Bring it on. I ain't scared. I'm also just trying to think if there's something that, for the patrons.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with this whirlpool, I almost feel like it's me getting like a gigantic swirly. In other words, this is where I die, no question. But I mean, I don't know what sound effect that is. Just water rushing or what? I have no clue.
I can come up with something, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just gonna put, water effect, whatever. And of course, Naldo cry of pain. Ah! But because aqueous solution plus what I was constructing, which I already said was liquids, psychotropics, along with what were supposed to be affirmations. You see where this is going? I'm basically loading this dude up with what would be the equivalent of a massive depot injection to go along with the most, maddening earworm of music. If you want, I'll let you. You know what? I'll let you type that part up because I'm saying it, but I don't think I'm gonna. I don't think I'm gonna be able to synthesize it correctly.
So we'll start, and I'll finish it because I'm trying to wrap my head around what it's gonna.
Yeah.
Sound like from an engineering standpoint. I'm gonna do my best because I'm going away on for our anniversary tomorrow
Right.
night, so I'm not even
Right.
going to be around tomorrow
Right. I
to
understand.
edit. So I'm going to try
Okay.
and edit as much as I can tonight,
Okay.
even if I just get up to space air is leaking in. Matt says. Like from a movie or something. That sounds like something, you know, Lester Hard Cheese would say. Roll fizzle beef. Punt speed chunk. Big McLarge huge.
Okay, what I'm about to describe is only because I want people to get the idea that something's happening. Um,
Okay. Fizzing, bubbling. I get what you're getting.
yeah, I know. Sorry. Um,
Matt says it's from 1950 sci-fi. Space air is leaking in. I guess Doc would know that better than I.
well, see, the problem is I have a very specific couple of novels by one author that I'm thinking of, so it's not going to totally match up. But man, oh man, I'm going to leave them guessing.
All right.
Think Eastern European.
Reef blast body. Slab squat thrust. Bob Johnson. Oh, wait. Crud bone meal. Stump Chunkman. It's. I will never not find this joke funny. That's all get out. It's like the dead pet jokes at poker. Like I hear them all the time. It's been the same jokes for over 10 years, but damn if it's not still hilarious. Oh, for Christ's sake.
What?
I'm just picturing and hearing in my head what it's going to sound like. And also, fuck you for making me engineer and produce this. Because this is going to be just like from a sound effects and a production standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm going to have like 7 tracks on this and so many effects and everything. This is going to be, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be absolutely worth it. And I'm looking at it this way. Next week, when we're doing the 100th episode, that's basically just going to be,
us talking.
Straightforward. It's us talking.
Yeah.
I think I may do like a drum roll for the award announcements, but that's about it. It's going to be very simple and straightforward. So I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony laughing. Oh boy.
Oh, wait. I'm trying to think of the way to word this next. Like,
Oh,
sorry. I mean, it's because I got to be careful. In other words, I don't want to make it sound like he wants to kill himself because of this. I just want to make it clear, like this is torture.
oh, I think we can make this work. We can definitely make this happen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that was my brain dump. I don't know, like which, however you want to, however you want to.
So now, are you still alive or you're dead at this point?
No. I'm definitely, I'm definitely dead.
Okay.
I'm definitely dead. I'm not aware of how I would survive like a whirlpool on a planet. That's totally fine. Yes. oh. Yes, this is what you tune in for. You tune in for me randomly laughing and Anthony randomly laughing while we're
don't
typing
worry.
things.
Oh, don't worry. This will
Yes,
all,
you will get it. You will get it.
This in about 45 minutes, I promise.
Yes. Let me make this clear to anyone listening or watching. I enjoy every episode that we do. It's just that I enjoy them in different ways. Sometimes they are a catharsis from work. Sometimes they allow us to explore topics that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. This particular character, the second that he was announced, whatever, my brain was buzzing with stuff. So I apologize if I blow out the microphone a couple of times. I have some energy about this. All right.
Fiend.
Mm-hmm. We're good.
This isn't a long skit, but
no. Well, because I was thinking about that too. It's a living planet. I'm not having a therapy session with a living planet. I'm just not.
Well, no, and that's fair. Like I said, I this is ending a little sooner than I thought it would, but I do like where we accomplish a lot in a short period of time. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else for the patrons, and also what the recommended reading would be. Ruby says, "I just have to say, all this laughing has me really looking forward to the skit." Now, this is another one where I'm sorry that we've already got the votes and the nominees for the 100th episode award show, because I think this one would at least potentially qualify for, most humorous skit.
Yep.
So let me see here. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the thing is, he's not in that many stories. Excuse me.
Yeah.
He's appeared in 89 comics overall. This is very easy to be a ego completionist, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, read the old Thor books, probably.
Yeah.
The old Thor volumes, because that's where he's features in, let's see, 132, 133. And 55 to 161. 226 to 228. 227. Let me get my. Or am I thinking the beginning of Amen? What was the one where he's jump roping because he's like.
That's Amen.
That's Amen. Okay, not 227. Sorry.
That's quite all right. And watch me get corrected by someone else anyway.
I'm sorry. I'm getting the filmography of Jackie Harry all messed up.
It's all right, man.
All right. All right. I am now recording on Audition.
As am I.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All righty. All set.
All right. Let's do this in 3, 2. Hello and welcome to Capes on the Couch, where comics get counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
This is issue number 99, Ego, the Living Planet, as suggested by present level patron Brian. Speaking of patrons, want to give a shout out and major thank you to our 2 brand new patrons, Mayor Janine and local official Travis. Janine is a lovely individual who wrote a wonderful message of appreciation for the show, and just this year in particular, I think has impacted a lot of people in many, many ways. And Janine was very grateful that we approached the show with humor and sensitivity. And it was just very lovely to read. So Janine, thank you for your very kind words, and thank you for your patronage. And Travis is the creator of Pod Decks, which is a series of cards and also an app for podcast hosts to spur interview topics. So, and he's created quite a fantastic community on Facebook for podcast creators. Myself, I know Ben from Popcorn Psychology, Ray from Into the Night are both members there. And so Travis has really made something special of this community, and a way for podcasters to sort of come together and help each other out, whether it's advice, whether it's supporting each other with guest appearances or equipment recommendations or what have you. So Travis, thank you for your patronage, and thank you for the community that you built and your support. And so we're just continuing to grow and grow the show. And it's just fascinating and amazing as we come up on 100 episodes.
Oh man, that is so cool.
And speaking of that, the day this is released, you will have 3 more days. So if you're listening to this on the Wednesday that it comes out, you'll have 3 more days left to vote. capesonthecouch.live/nominees for our 100th episode award show. And also a reminder, it's not just voting, it's a mailbag. You know, even if you don't have necessarily strong opinions on episodes or the other, if there's a question you want to ask us, the last form, or the last question on the form, is an open-ended one, and you can ask any questions you want. So whether it's about the show, whether it's about a character, an episode that we've done, what have you, we welcome the questions. It's an AMA, so we're really trying to pump and promote that as much as possible. But I also want to say, if you haven't voted yet, get those votes in, because I did take a look the other day, and I said I wasn't really going to look, but I couldn't resist. I can't. And a couple of the votes are tied, so I'm just throwing it out there. You want to be that tie-breaking vote. CapesInTheCouch.live/nominees and get those votes in now. So, and we are recording this on International or World Mental Health Day. And so I was on the social media a little bit, and I was able to, not a lot because I had a lot to do today, but I was able to reshare my message from 2 years ago, which is 2 years ago already, crazy. But the write-up that I had posted on the website about my bouts with depression and so on. So just a friendly reminder to all of our listeners, you are not alone. You matter. Help is out there. Please, if you need assistance, do not hesitate to call your local crisis center hotline. Call 911 if need be, if you're in the United States, but reach out. Even if you're not 100% certain who to contact us and we will help you.
Absolutely.
We will help you find someone
right.
that can provide you further assistance.
Right. I may not be able to be or I should say, I will not be your treatment provider, but I gladly will link any resources that I have available based on your circumstance if it's necessary. I was working today. To be honest with you, I work almost every weekend, so I definitely continue to see what our current society is, how it's impacting many people. So thank you so much for those who are listening. And it is interesting to know that this isn't just helping people that are just getting introduced to the idea of mental health, but even some of my coworkers and colleagues have given me feedback about the show, which really, really motivates me. So I know I'm doing something good with Anthony here, and we want to keep this thing rolling. And what better way to continue something like this than talk about an entire planet?
Yes, this is literally the biggest character we've ever done. This is Ego, the Living Planet, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in Thor number 132, September 1966. A scientist named Egros, and I'm doing this more in his chronological life rather than publication history, because he's been in, I think, 89 comics in the main 616 timeline. And so it's not that difficult to be an ego completionist if you are a comic collector. But we're going to give you his backstory as it's told chronologically for him, not necessarily via publication. So a scientist named Egros tried in vain to save his planet and people from the Stranger, but when the planet exploded, Egros was merged with all of his people and the planet to create Ego, the Living Planet, #BecauseComics. So he began destroying ships that approached his area until he was fought and defeated by Thor. And then he later allied with Thor against Galactus, who wanted to consume him. So he allowed a group called the Wanderers, who were homeless after Galactus had destroyed their home planets, to live on his surface, until he went mad due to experiments on him by a Rigelian scientist, and he consumed all of the Wanderers.
Well, hey, sometimes dude just got to eat.
Yeah, I suppose that's really poor hospitability, though. So he heads to Earth seeking vengeance, and he's defeated by the Fantastic Four, who use his rockets to propel him into the sun, where he disintegrates. Except he reforms himself from a few particles, #BecauseComics, and eventually goes mad and attacks worlds looking for other similar planets because he wants to believe that he is not the only one out there. And he's defeated by Professor X and a host of other mutants. Then he's captured by the Kree and sent to Earth in spore form in an attempt to weaponize him against the Earth. And he's absorbed by Quasar. But upon Quasar's death, Ego is released back into the universe.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to interject here, because the way you just said that, it's not your fault because that's the way it's written. The whole point of it is the idea of seeding the planet. And anybody that's seen any cartoons or sci-fi, anything, has become familiar with this. The idea is you take enough of the biosphere, enough of living matter in different formats in a way that it can kind of start again on a proper living surface, then you can just go ahead and terraform everything. That's the idea. Whether or not that actually works in large scale, Do we really know? Hopefully we'll never have to find out, but that's the idea behind why Mars is so interesting, why pretty much any interstellar planetary stuff is interesting. If we can just recreate all we have on Earth, then it eliminates a lot of the urgency we would have, heaven forbid something terrible happens to our planet. By the way, we are nowhere near this level, so please continue to protect the planet. Thank you. I'll get off my soapbox.
So then he learns he had a brother, Alter Ego, who had been in prison since his creation and sought him out. So Alter Ego attacks him and Ego defeats him in self-defense. So then the elemental Zephyr recreates a smaller version of Alter Ego who then orbits Ego as a moon. And during the recent Eternity War storyline, he was given a body by Galactus, the Lifebringer, and joins the Eternity Watch to help save Eternity from imprisonment by the First Firmament, who was one of those many beings, because there's always seems to be more and more of them that, oh, they're the ones who were there at the beginning of the universe, until some other writer says, no, I need this character to actually have been responsible or there at the creation of the universe. And it's just they keep undoing the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, pretty much.
So issues. So let's start with the first one. Fairly obvious, befitting his name, a superiority complex. Ego thinks he is the greatest. He thinks he is worthy of worship and that there are none greater than him.
Yeah, I'm going to take a tact here because I'm sure there are some listeners that are wondering, Doc, you've talked about narcissists before. You've talked about characters that are domineering. You've talked about world leaders. You've talked about super powerful beings. What on earth makes Ego different than anybody else? Well, Ego is everything. Literally everything. There's nothing that Ego compares himself to besides Ego. So that makes this distinct. And I can think of quite a few patients. I'm not talking narcissism. I'm talking a level of lack of understanding that doesn't allow for talk. It doesn't allow for discourse because the person knows that they're automatically right. And it's not even whether or not you're challenging them. It's that it's not a conversation to be had. If you're not accepting this fact, then you are not going to get any attention from the person. So they're usually disinterested. I can usually tell this from patients because they will walk out on me. It doesn't matter what the topic was. If it wasn't the topic they wanted to talk about, they simply say, okay, thanks. And they walk out the door. So from that sense, that level of disinterest, because they already have all the answers, becomes really upsetting. Usually people like that only are going to respond when they feel threatened, which means that by definition, the only thing you're going to have are confrontations. You're not having any level sound debate or not even debate, just basic conversation. It's not possible. And when a person is in that state for too long, be it a bipolar mania, be it just a psychosis that they are a different person or a famous person from a past life, things like that, you can't try and use logic. And it creates just a huge imbalance. The irony of this is that many times people in this situation, and I'm not saying this lightly, are in the exact opposite persona than what they think. So Ego, despite being a planet, ends up getting literally pushed around. Like he gets shipped around with rocket propulsion. He doesn't always win. He basically gets destroyed, in the sun for a while. All of these things happen despite the fact that, according to him, it didn't matter because he's Ego. So that doesn't really allow for much. And when I have patients like this and we're basically telling them, by the way, you're getting medication and it doesn't matter what your thought is, whether you like it or not, because we know that this is going to help you. And you refuse to discuss anything with us. So we have to do what's in your best interest for you, unfortunately, to protect ourselves, protect others, and protect you. So those periods of time are not fun. They sometimes end up in restraints. The medications usually are not oral, they're usually injections. It's not pretty. So if you have a superiority complex to the point that no one can actually talk to you, then unfortunately, if you're doing anything that's considered not good for society, it's going to lead to action a lot quicker, just as a potential dangerous thought.
I wasn't sure if there was any more to that.
Well, there could be, but no, I don't want to.
Fair enough. I'm certainly not going to press you on it. Yeah, it's just, when you're talking about the patient, and I can only imagine what you've seen, knowing your work history and where you've worked and some of the environments that you've worked in. I can only imagine what you have seen. And I'm wondering, it's funny, you're talking about some of these medications and forcible injections and such. And yet I'm wondering if some of the folks that are, and I don't want to speculate and I don't want to denigrate people, obviously, that are struggling, but I'm also wondering how many of some of the more grandiose statements that I'm sure you've been witness to are the result of substances, that how much of this is the person's authentic ego and how much of this is being spurred on by substances.
That's a great point. They're not called beer muscles for nothing. So plenty of people have definitely, under the influence of certain substances, developed this idea. And you add that with disinhibition and increased impulsivity, emotional dysregulation. It's quite the combination. Heaven forbid the person has an underlying other mental health concern besides the substances. It's a volatile mix. Sometimes people ask me, what is your nightmare patient? Like, what's the patient that the second that the person comes to mind, like it gives you nightmares? I would say it's the combination of a person with a significant substance problem, actively either intoxicated or going through withdrawal, depending on what it is, along with an antisocial streak, along with some psychotic format. That combination, I think, is incredibly difficult because you're dealing with, just like I said, you do your best to be accommodating, to be civil, to do everything to make a situation more comfortable, to de-escalate verbally, all of it. And you do it for as long as you can. And you realize you're coming to the point where it's clear that the words just aren't doing anything. And this person is making threat after threat after threat. And you realize, you know what, this person is suffering and we need to help them. So that's what I mean. I didn't want to make it sound like it's a punishment. It's not. We're not the police. We're not anything of the sort. We know a person needs help. We're looking to intervene in a way that is going to allow for some of that relief sooner rather than later, in a way that's going to be safe and effective for them under the circumstance. Having said that, overall, when people have gone through those experiences, most of them that I've talked to say either they remember bits and pieces of it, or if they do remember it, they're pretty upset that it happened, but they're not always directly upset with us. They're upset with the situation. Like, how did it get to that point? How did it get that far? Why, I'm not going to use foul language if it's not necessary. Like, why was I such a jerk? Why did I do that? And now we're trying to help them understand after the fact. There's something that we cannot do. We don't record any of these things, which I think philosophically is something that I think is a missed opportunity. Ethically, we cannot do it, and I'm not saying we should. I'm saying that it would be an opportunity if a person could see how they were acting in that moment. Like, you thought you were absolutely the most important thing in existence, and nothing was going to stand in your way, and you were willing to destroy anybody that was near you. And you had people that were really scared. You had people that also cared about you at the same time, wanted you to get help. You shunned them. You may have attacked them. You may have threatened them. You may have done so many other things. You may have put other people's lives at risk. All of it because of your own sense of inflated self-worth. And it took sometimes multiple people to resolve the situation in a way that thankfully nobody got seriously hurt. And I think if people had the opportunity to see it after the fact, I think it could potentially be powerful. But I understand for serious ethical reasons why we do not do that. And I know we're not going to be doing that anytime soon. You know, maybe one day we'll have a confidential way to do it. But at the same time, I also don't want nurses, doctors, and mental health associates to have to wear body cams for the same reason. Just something, you know.
No, that's an excellent point. And I do see the dichotomy of what it is that you're dealing with. On the one hand, yes, it would be a very powerful thing to go, oh my goodness, like I was like that, because I think that can be very potentially eye-opening and impactful to people, to create that level of self-awareness in them that they may not have, but give them that external perspective. But as you said, there's a whole host of logistical concerns about it. So for the time being, I suppose we'll stick with the system. But I think that was, very well said. And it was just one of those things that I wanted to bring up again. I didn't want to denigrate and say, oh, well, these people must obviously be on something if they're making those grandiose statements. But I'm also not ignorant to the fact that perhaps some of these substances may create delusions of grandeur in people. And so I just question, from a sincerity standpoint, what was the cause of some of those statements. So back to ego then. In issue number 2, he is experiencing copious amounts of loneliness over being the only one of his kind. Now, as I said, he does find himself with a brother alter ego. And then in the Deadpool run, there's a short reference to id. And then it is destroyed shortly thereafter. So it's more of, we're going to create this character for this particular arc just to tell a humorous story. But living planets are very, very few and far between in comics. For obvious reasons, I just think logistically it's difficult to put them into a story in a way that's really meaningful, which is why, again, I don't see that many ego stories. But that loneliness obviously has to weigh on him, which I think ends up in some ways leading to the superiority complex and saying, well, I'm the only one, and there can be only one of me, et cetera, et cetera. But that also, as I said, has to be a crippling sense of loneliness, and that is not something that is easily remedied, as I'm sure, as we'll also get to with issue number 3 when we get there.
Yeah. So the thing that comes to mind with situations like this, I'm going to use a small scale and then use a larger scale. The small scale, first thing I think of is an orphan, a person that lost their family, doesn't have anybody else biologically attached to them that they're aware of in life. And especially if that person at one point knew that they had a family, they didn't live their entire life as an orphan. It happened, let's say, because of tragic circumstances, which we've seen in comics as well, or any other media form, or real life. The point is, you don't automatically have the support system around you to develop some of the, not just social skills, but the empathy skills, the types of interactions that allow for healthy building of relationships. It's not inherent. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, if you're an orphan, you're never going to be able to talk to anybody. That's ridiculous. But just pointing out, it's not something that is going to instantly come. It's going to have to take extra work to foster. Hint, hint. That's one version. On a grander scale, oh boy, sometimes we get into heady stuff. If you are the last of a particular tribe in North America, if you are a survivor of attempts at genocide anywhere in the world, if you're very existence was targeted for a simple set of beliefs, then it's an interesting dynamic wherever you go, because now you are doing your best to maintain what it is that you already know from that tradition, from that society, while also trying to ingratiate to those that, although they have allowed you to survive, that doesn't mean they're supporting you. That doesn't mean they're trying to understand you more. And that creates its own set of difficulties. And a lot of these social determinant factors have a massive impact on a person's overall level of stress on a daily basis. In other words, the baseline level of stress for someone in that situation is higher than a person that was not placed in those circumstances. So you're already starting with an unfair deck. And I don't want to sound whiny with this. All I'm getting at is it's something to be taken into consideration, because we can't just automatically eliminate the problem that caused this in the first place. If I say all of the things about what you knew in your past life are restored instantly, like if I magically could do that, if I could just snap my fingers and do that, we know that that level of learned helplessness or learned anger and frustration or that learned neuroticism doesn't just instantly go away when you remove the negative circumstance. We know this. This has been studied for years. And yet, it's not something that we take into account on individual one-on-one contacts. We really don't. Unless we really get to know a person, that's not what we think about. And in all honesty, many people don't want you to think about it, because if you bring it to the forefront, it's reliving potentially a trauma. If it was a matter of something being eliminated, if it's something you never knew, then you may be dealing with the opposite. You may be dealing with a situation where people think you know about a culture or you know about a circumstance, and you never got exposed to it. So what do? Do you fake it? Do you do your research in the background and then pretend like you grew up in it? Um, the one example I could think of was someone that I worked with who was adopted, and the point is they were Spanish. They didn't speak Spanish. They never learned Spanish. They, barely were exposed to a Latin culture. They were exposed to a predominantly combination Italian slash, other European centered and American centered cultures. So they were exposed to a lot of other children that were Hispanic, and it was just this really weird thing where they were ostracized, and it wasn't fair. It didn't make sense, but that's what they went through, and they did their best to learn as they went along. So, it doesn't have to be so specific to say you're the only one of your kind, but if you feel like society has created this pocket for you that seems to only fit you, and anytime you try and go out of that zone, it creates a lot of tension and turmoil for you, I'm just letting you know. I'm not making diagnoses or anything like that. I'm just letting you know that there are many people in their own unique way that are going through the same thing. So, ego, you may have been one of the few living planets, but you weren't the only orphan. You weren't the only refugee survivor. You weren't the only displaced person out in the world. You're not the only child. It's okay, man. People survive. People get through. I'm sure planets do too. I mean, especially if you can survive being shot into the sun. Dang.
Well said. Very, very well said. And I do think that's important for our listeners to recognize that no matter what it is that you're going through, no matter how despondent you may be over your situation, and I'm not saying this to be pedantic or saccharine, but folks have survived it and they have continued to thrive. And it's a cliche statement, but you've survived 100% of your bad days so far. So just remember that no matter how terrible things may appear. And no matter how bad it is, you have survived to this point, and I hope that you can continue to find the strength to power through whatever it is that you're dealing with. And as we said at the top of the show, if that requires getting some assistance from someone, then please, by all means, I hope you at least find the strength and the resources to reach out. And if you're listening to the show, I think, not to pat myself on the back too much, but I think if you're listening to the show, you're already at least part way there. So, number 3, as we had alluded to earlier, is the loneliness over being the only one of his kind, but it's also incredibly logistically difficult for him to interact with anyone because he is a planet. And I know that the scale in the books is always different depending on the artist, but even if he's the size of a small moon, assuming that's still really friggin' big. It is incredibly difficult for him to have any meaningful interaction with anyone. So even if he weren't the only one of his kind, unless he were approaching other celestial bodies, and now you're creating a whole host of other gravitational pull issues, and just the minor astronomical geek in me is thinking about all the impacts. And do you sort of orbit each other? Do you and if you're trying to talk to a person, are they hanging out of the Lagrange point? Like, what's the
oh my god
I could go off on this stuff because it's a minor fascination of mine. But in any case, he can't talk to anybody. And it seems like the only time that he does interact with anybody is if they're coming to stop him from something horrible, or they need him and his abilities for something. Nobody just decides to go, "Hey, Ego, how are you doing?" Because they can't. It's very difficult for them to do that. Which exacerbates the loneliness and it doesn't help with the superiority complex and so on and so forth. But I'll get off of that soapbox and I'll let you.
Well, once again, there's possible variations to this. When you first said difficulty of logistically interacting with anyone, the first thing I thought of was distance. And thankfully, there's a lot of technology. Otherwise, I can't imagine how much worse this whole pandemic would have been if it weren't for all of the ways we could video conference, telephone calls, all of it. It's amazing. So I'll put that to the side, but that can potentially be a thing. If you have no way of communicating to someone, or people are distant and you lost their number, like someone that you were really close to, you got a new phone. Not to get too much on a soapbox, do yourself a favor. This is just a helpful hint. Memorize your phone number, memorize a significant other or someone you're really close to, memorize their phone number, because that's a skill that has greatly atrophied recently. So this is not something as minor as it seems. Just the idea of being able to communicate, even if you could communicate any other way. I see this in the hospital a lot. People lose their cell phones or broke their cell phones, honestly. And now they're saying, I have no one. I don't know. And nobody knows they're there. Now they really are cut off. So that creates a problem. Anyway, to get back
That's why it's helpful that I know I have my wife's phone memorized. Yep. I have my parents' phone number memorized.
Yep.
I have your parents' house phone memorized from when we were kids. And I still, to this day, I have my ex-girlfriend's house number memorized for some ungodly reason. I can't seem to get that one out of my brain.
Oh boy.
Delete that file. But anyway.
All right, don't go that far. Don't go that far. All right. So that's actually, if someone says that you didn't learn something here, you finally did. But no, to get back to the other point, I'm thinking also language barriers. You're in a different location. You just don't know it. And people are taking it for granted that you understand exactly what they're saying. And you've always in your lifetime taken for granted what they're saying, and you just can't. The level of anxiety and the level of helplessness, the level of feelings of inferiority that come from that, ironically, or Some people, and this is where part of the term ugly American comes from, some people just come with the assumption that, oh, I speak English, therefore everybody else has to speak English. But people in other cultures do that too for their own language. It's not just the United States and English, okay? But that's another point. Those things are so inherent to the human experience that when they are challenged, it can really create instant panic attacks, dysphoria, depression, because the very element or one of the elements that we need to survive is instantly removed. That's painful. That's Maslow's hierarchy of needs type stuff. And when you start really touching that base level, you're going to be in some serious trouble. Now, of course, that has to do with the interaction, because when we say interaction, we mean anything with anyone. So the idea of love, compassion, sex, all of it. What happens to someone who's disabled? What happens to someone, forget disabled, what happens when someone is actually impotent for the first time? What happens when, someone actually in a relationship says that they're ready to move on? That's a way that we don't think of it in terms of saying we can't interact with them. It means that things have changed. Things, and I am specifically saying changed for the worse. And yet, logistically, let's say a couple going through a divorce, you have children. You know that for the sake of the children, you both need to be involved. And we've discussed this in other episodes about co-parenting and that sort of thing. But knowing that this person that you at some point considered to be the pinnacle of what you wanted your life to be in terms of loving one another, and it's no longer that idea of loss, but still having to have that continued interaction. You go to a rival company in a job, you still have to continue to see previous coworkers, and you left on, let's say, not so good terms. Logistics of interaction can take many forms, and sometimes it's just that emotional gradient, that emotional wall that you have to climb over again and again and again when there's something that's telling you, I just don't want to do this anymore. All of that emotional strain, all of these circumstances that I'm describing, do any of them sound like fantasy? Do any of them sound like comic books? I don't think so. And yet, when you have some living planet that clearly isn't going to, on a scale wise, in terms of magnitude, be able to do anything with anybody, if it opens its mouth, whatever it is, I mean, that's kind of micro black hole stuff. If it's quote unquote listening, I mean, I don't know. Can you hear a fly in the house of a neighbor in the neighborhood approximately 50 blocks away? That's the scale that we're talking about. Things don't make sense. It just wouldn't be able to happen. So from a human standpoint, so many variations on this. If you have certain disabilities and you're not doing things that, maybe it's something you just developed and you can't do what you used to. All of these things are windows to potential ruin. They don't have to be, but having the knowledge that they can be allows for a person to be more open and receptive to someone talking about it. So once again, those people out there, if you just feel like you're in a spot that you didn't expect to be in, it doesn't have to stay that way. Circumstances may put you where you are, but they don't put you where you stay.
I like that. Is that a Doc original, or did you hear
Oh,
that
hell no.
somewhere?
Oh, hell no. I've heard that from plenty of nurses, other people. Oh, no, man. Are you kidding me? Everything, let's make this clear. Other than some of the puns I come up off the top of my head, everything in this podcast, and I say this with great respect, is if we don't give it credit, is plagiarism, okay? So I'm thankful that so many people have come up with so many wise things that I get to riff off of.
All right, that's fair, and I suppose honest answer. So I appreciate that. Let's take a short break, plug a couple shows, and we get back. We'll get into treatment. Stay tuned. All right. I'm gonna just run and grab a drink real fast. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. One sec, calling back my dad because he was wishing me a birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, hey, pops.
Alrighty, I'm back.
All right, I'm back as well. All right, and we're back in 3, 2. Now we're back. So treatment in universe.
Yeah, so I need basically a multi-million-dollar expedition, I guess, because I don't know how to travel in space, and I don't know anything about landing on moon, or whatever planetary surfaces and all. That's not exactly my area of expertise, and I can't even make a quip like saying, well, it's not rocket science, because it actually is. So that I definitely would need some help with that. I don't care if it's just basic super intelligent people that get me there, or a super powered being that flies me there. I don't know, whatever. So once I'm actually in the area, just as a spoiler, no, this is not going to be the same thing I'm going to do for the skit. Oh man, I'm so looking forward to that. I'm going to invoke something that's relevant to this, because we've already hinted at it, and the writers for the character have hinted at it. The idea of ego. We're talking about the Webster's definition of ego so far, but there's also the psychoanalytic definition of ego, which predates Freud, but that's what everyone remembers with Freud. So you have id, ego, superego, with id being the quote unquote primitive base, immediate survival needs, urgent needs, sex, all that stuff. You have the superego, which is basically the knows all the rules, make sure you follow them, complete control of everything, don't do anything fun. I'm saying this stereotypically, there's much more nuance in this, but super quick. And the idea of the ego is that it's the mature part of all of this that pretty much becomes the moderator, and you get what reality is by how ego manages superego and id. So why am I bringing all this stuff up? Do you really need to know psychoanalysis? No, you don't. But I wanted to bring it up because how do I use that to my advantage dealing with ego in universe? I need to reference something that is really old. So there is an author and a professor named Olaf Stapledon, and he died in 1950. But besides teaching psychology, I think it might have been teaching psychology, philosophy, something like that. But the point is, he also wrote a couple of science fiction books. These are the most out there, like just long, broad stroke history of the universe books that I've ever read. So I apologize. I just want to make sure I got the names right. Come on, where is it? Okay. Last and First Men, which indicates the evolution of humanity from what we are now to 19 other variations, like as they evolve, ultimately creating this super intelligence that is able to manage itself, like all humans connected. Like it's way more complex than I'm saying. That's one of them. And then Star Maker, which actually expands the entire history of the universe, which involved a similar setting, but it was an original entity creator of everything in the universe that was trying to recreate it for itself. And eventually its own creation gets to its level as an equal. And what happens once they interact? It's just, it's pretty mind blowing. And that's kind of the point. Ego needs something above and beyond itself. And I think that level of scale would allow for that type of moderation to happen at some point. I'm not talking about in the comics where he says he needs to control everything because everything's inferior. And so he sends out his own antibodies that are like human things that control everything. That's not what I'm talking about. It's more like, no, let other things happen. And eventually it may get to something that may or may not resemble you, but at least it would allow for you to see what else is possible. And heaven forbid, if it's better than you, maybe now you got something even more to shoot for. And creating that long-term goal, which is beyond the comprehension of you or I in terms of its scope and longevity, might be a pretty good thing to do for them. So that would be my thought. The only other time I've gotten this existential, I think, is when we did the Thanos episode, and I mentioned the book God's Debris by Scott Adams. Because I think with these types of entities, that's how far you got to go. You don't stick with the basics. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to do basic CBT with a planet.
But why not?
Actually,
it
we're
would
going
be
to
fun.
we're going to see just how well that goes.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're going to see that. So out of universe, then, I confess I'm struggling a little bit to come up with an appropriate allegory.
Yeah, I don't think there really isn't one. I could take this opportunity though to go back then and just briefly touch on something that is not my forte, which is psychoanalysis itself, because a lot of people, they still think of Freud. Let's be honest. How do we get the name of this show? Capes on the Couch? Come on. We got it because people think of the couch and because of Freud and the idea of that type of therapy. But why is that? Well, the idea with the construct is you need to focus on ego, and you need to focus on the person's defense mechanisms as to whatever's going on personally. See, the idea is that you have things that are conscious, you're aware of them. You have things that are unconscious, meaning you're not aware of them. And then you have this border of all of that called the preconscious. So in other words, it's right there below the surface. And if something immediately reminds you of it, then you're going to come up with the next TV trope. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just me and Anthony. You're going to come up with something that's relevant to a major part of your being, your current existence. And we switch back and forth with lots of different things in life in general, but what is in control of what determines what your emotions are. This is some of the basics of the theory. So if you have a dominant superego, the idea was that it means that you're going to be incredibly neurotic. You're always going to be looking for every last detail. You're going to want everything to be exactly right. And when it's not, it creates a lot of internal stress for you. And you don't do a good job monitoring that. And you also don't let quote unquote baser instincts, defile you. I'm saying that with air quotes on the camera because it's meant to sound pejorative because that's the way superego views it. And it's not exactly completely healthy if that's the only thing you're using. Meanwhile, if it's all id, then you end up with situations where you're doing things almost hedonistically. And I think we've done plenty of episodes to show why that's not a good thing. So I don't think I have to expound too much on that. And when I say ego as the moderator, the whole point is you need to get the ego's view. And the only way you know the ego's view is what style you've developed to handle stressful situations in your life And if you're dealing with Freud, you're saying, how did you handle the phases that you're supposed to go through in childhood? Depending on how you went through those phases, and I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to lead a professor course here. Then the idea is you sometimes get stuck on one phase or another. And depending on the phase that you got stuck on, those are the coping mechanisms that you develop. I'm not going to say all of this is total bunk. I'm going to say that the construct that Freud created was purely of his mind, and anybody that was following him, it was their interpretation of it and their take on it, as opposed to actual rigorous experimental scientific study or data to back any of it up. So that's why we usually don't refer to it in these terms the same way now. But I still think that philosophically, it can give a good view when you look at it more as, and other psychologists later have termed it this way, even if that wasn't accurate, conflict resolution. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Internal conflict resolution. I mean, obviously there's external conflict resolution too, if you're dealing with other people or other situations, because the outside situations usually are the stimulus for why you need to interact in the first place. But the idea of any type of conflict resolution and what are the tools you're using to fix them, that's powerful. And using the idea that there is something that you may not be thinking of right now, and it's my job to help you figure out what's going to work for you as soon as you're able to unlock what it is, that's powerful too. So in other words, don't just throw out the idea because all of it seems like this almost science fiction or comic book level theory of explaining things get in the way of letting the idea that something can help in this format if you allow it. So who is this ideal for? Because I'm not directly trained in it, I don't feel as comfortable speculating on that. I will say, though, the point is, if you have a patient that's not connecting with anything else, and this does, and it allows them to talk about things that they wouldn't otherwise talk about, and it allows them to heal from things that they wouldn't otherwise heal from, and it allows them to explore other opportunities in life that they wouldn't have otherwise done, then there's no harm in that. Don't take it to the nth degree of pseudoscience that negates empirical evidence for things that we've found over the years. I think that's the dangerous side, but at the same time, I'm glad that this type of analysis laid the groundwork for much of psychology as we know it. Just the idea of there are things we don't know, we have to acknowledge that we don't know, and we're going to continue to explore with individuals so that they can learn from it. I think that's still a great takeaway from id, ego, and superego.
Man, I love when we get really just super deep on this show and we get to talk about things like that. It's just, man, gives me the warm and fuzzies. No, seriously though, it does. Because I don't know, it's weird. I like knowing that as goofy as we can be, and as, weird with the pop culture references and stuff, that there is the nuggets of real conscious thought and thought-provoking discussion in there. It's just like, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me going, because if this were just the two of us just shooting the breeze about comic characters, I probably would have been bored a long time ago. But it's the idea that, no, I'm being serious with you. It's the idea that we get to have these types of discussions wrapped around, talking about comic book characters. So it's the hidden depths kind of thing.
Fooled you. You thought we were just doing like little quips on comics and having fun with each other, which we are. But once in a while, yeah, we kind of sneak in some real emotional stuff, real intellectual stuff, heady stuff, geek stuff. This is why I was looking forward to this character. I really did have all of these ideas.
And I give you full credit for it. This is not where I really saw this going for this episode, for this character. But I do appreciate it. So let's take all of this then, and there's quite a bit, and let's head on into space and see what happens when we get Dr. Issues on Ego the Living Planet. As opposed to Ego the Living Planet on Dr. Issues' couch, because that sure shit ain't happening.
Yeah.
All right, so Ruby, Matt, anybody else that is still watching when you were watching when we were talking?
Well, Tim is on. He's on Get Vocal anyway.
Say what?
Tim is on Get Vocal.
Oh, he can watch.
Yay! Okay. I'm ready when you are. So
yeah, sorry, I just watched a dude. Holy smoke! It was a UFC knockout.
Yes, I just saw that earlier. Yeah.
What?
That's some Matt Hardy reversal type stuff, man. I'm like, that kick is not supposed to work.
All right, yeah, that's like some like WWE 2K glitch type shit. Like,
yeah,
I'm just gonna grab you. Like, all right, fine. Hold this foot.
No, that's actually
around and back.
Actually, that's
kick you in the face.
No, you know who actually has that as part of his quote unquote arsenal? Rob Van Dam.
Yes, that is definitely an RVD move.
All right,
without question. And Notre Dame is up by 15.
All right,
good start. Okay. Hey, listen, I got to get paid. All right, so again, to anybody watching or listening, we're going to beef up the sound effects a little bit here, but hopefully you can follow along. So,
all right, in 3, 2, 1. Hello, Ego. I'm Dr. Issues.
I am Ego.
Nice to meet you.
Ego, the Living Planet.
Yes, I know. I'm Dr. Issues.
The largest and most powerful intelligence in all infinity.
Good to know.
I have seen universes born and die. I have seen races extinguished. I have witnessed the history of creation.
I'm happy for you?
I have no use for the other beings in this universe. I have mastered the ability to create my own.
Uh-huh. Go on.
Drilling sounds. You are like some sort of parasite that has no use to me. I could create a volcano and swallow you instantly.
Please don't. I'm enthralled by your conversation. The magnitude of this situation is not lost on me. Look, I'm at your mercy, but I'd like to challenge you.
You have no way of challenging a whole planet.
Well, physically I don't. Perhaps you're even smarter than me too. Drilling sound stuff. What purpose is creating a new framework?
What I propose.
Oh, damn it. Sorry. Let me start again. What I propose is creating a new framework for reconstructing reality as you know it.
For once, an insignificant speck of life may have a point. I will humor your plea.
Well, what's your objective? A perfect clone of yourself? That sounds boring. Can you create a better version of what you are?
You are using philosophical ploys that have no meaning to perfection. By definition, I have survived defeat enough times to know that any setback will only lead to a greater iteration of myself beyond measure. I have surpassed myself, and so any version of myself will end up better than before.
Well, if you do create another version of whatever it is you want, will there be variety? Creativity? Love?
You are still wasting time with processes that mean nothing to me. I shall end this.
Nope. I still have an idea. You're Ego, but you act as mostly id. You have no superego to keep you in check. You're unbalanced. I can help you with that. I can help you actually with what I'm constructing.
Jackhammer sound. I thought you were merely taking the equivalent of micro steps on what you would conceive of as my skin. I have underestimated you. What are you constructing? If it is an engine, I will force a snowstorm to freeze you in place. If it is a mind control device, I will create an earthquake to swallow you whole. I have infinite ways to destroy you. Do not fuck with me.
I'm a psychiatrist, not an engineer. No, I'm simply trying to make a vehicle or something that allows for smooth transportation on or through, any terrain. You're kind of difficult to traverse. And if I happen to have some affirmations on audio files along with several liters of psychotropics in high concentration, then no harm, right?
You do not have the strength of Thor, nor the hunger of Galactus to stop me. I tire of this. You will be consumed in a whirlpool of misery.
Oh, and I thought my puns were
There is no being that deserves to live on. That vehicle is still intact. It must be destroyed. And here's where we start playing Mambo number 5. Acoustics in my cabins are not calibrated for this. I have overcome madness. This matter, it contains chemicals not unlike anti-life, and yet I no longer have the desire to continue anything worthwhile. What is this noise? Who are these individuals? Why does the singer need them in his life? Are there 4 Mambos prior to this? Are they of equal horribleness? Is Mephisto responsible for this creation? Eternity? A celestial? Who the fuck allowed this to happen? No!
Oh man.
That's a thing. That's a thing that absolutely just got recorded and we are doing. Yep. People pay money for this.
Hey.
All of that for a fucking Mambo number 5 joke. We're lame and old. All right. Tim says, love this. and Matt referenced Jeff Hardy when we were talking about the UFC thing earlier.
Yes.
So back in 3, 2. Are you okay?
I mean, I don't know how I'm here now, but yeah, the idea of giving somebody a depot injection along with a never-ending sound loop of an earworm type of song, I don't even know what I was thinking there.
For the listeners and anybody who wasn't watching during the live stream while we were in the process of writing this, it took us a couple of minutes to come up with the appropriate, annoyingly catchy song to put in there. There were a couple of contenders, and ultimately we decided on Mambo number 5. Yes. Thank God there's not a Mambo number 6 coming out. So recommended reading for Ego the Living Planet is the older Thor books. I'm sure there's numerous master collections, epic collections, whatever. Find the Thor books, specifically 132 and 133, 155 through 161, and 226 through 228. If you can find any of the old compilations that contain those issues, those are some of the very early Ego stories. There's, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. There's some Jerry Conway in there, I think, with Sal Buscema on artwork. So it's really, really quality stuff. Not that some of the later stories aren't good as well, but this is the very early signs of Ego. So that's what we're recommending. Ruby says this episode is going to be amazing. Yeah, just wait till we get the sound effects going in on this. Oh boy. So next episode 100. So exciting. And as I said, if you're listening to this on the day it's released, that Saturday is when we will record, and that Saturday is when basically so October 17th, the afternoon of October 17th is when voting will end. So get your votes in now. capesonthecouch.live/nominees. Vote now for the 100th episode award show and submit questions for the mailbag, the AMA, anything. Even if you've already submitted a question and you've already filled out the form, you can still tweet at us, Facebook, Instagram, email capesonthecouch@gmail.com. Send us your questions. We'd love to hear from you. We've got a couple good ones so far. I took like a brief passing look at the questions. Again, I know I'm not supposed to, but I have no impulse control. I watched the whole 15-minute video on Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator, and I did it instead of working. So that was like an extra meta level. I was procrastinating by watching about procrastination. It was a TED Talk. It was fascinating, and it's totally my brain. I forget who the person is, but it's called Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. And if the video you're watching involves the instant gratification monkey, you're on the right track. That's the video. So as I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, @CapesOnTheCouch, email us capesonthecouch@gmail.com, and get those votes in. 100 episodes. Doc?
For once, I really don't have a pun for this because I just got so I spent all of my emotional and creative energy on the skit.
That's okay. You're allowed to take a moment and just say, I'm doing, I got everything out. Not everything has to be a pun.
Yeah. No, I agree. And by the way, since we're approaching 100, the idea that anyone would listen to 99 episodes of this just to get to this point, it blows my mind.
Well, I think we're going to get into that a little bit next week when we're doing the 100th episode. We'll have an opportunity for us to reflect on what this means and what it's meant to us individually and collectively and so on, and as well as the fans. Plus, I'm still working on that surprise. So,
yeah. The one thing I will say though, I didn't get to implement the one idea that I didn't even tell you about it. I was going to have you use a high pitched voice like you were, like you had just sucked on helium, because I wanted to see just how much we could inflate your ego.
Oh, so you do have a pun.
Oh, I had to slow roll you on that one. Oh yeah.
Oh boy. Boo this man. For Doc Issues, I'm Anthony Sitko. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week for episode 100. Boo this man.
And to be honest with you, I really didn't have that one. I just created it.
I know.
No, I have to come up with something. Damn it.
All right. So Matt, like I said, he gave us the clones one, and and he just messaged me. Are you ready for what I'm sure is going to be a gloriously fun episode? Bring it on, because he said he had the theme, which was clones, and the character pick.
Yep.
So this was a fun one.
Oh yeah. So did you get paid or not?
It's $35.26 right now.
With how much time?
12 minutes left in the third.
Oh, still in the third. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll tell you this, I probably should have taken the over instead of the spread.
Yeah.
I was not expecting I would say I was not expecting. Matt's the one who comes up with this stuff. I just bet on who he tells me.
All righty then.
But all right, we're going to end the broadcast. So thank you, Matt, Ruby, Tim, anybody else? Tim says, thank you for not going with Baby Shark.
No. Oh, geez. Man, oh, man.
Yeah, thankfully we got rid of that bath toy that Theo had, and I no longer have to hear it spasming 20 minutes after his fucking bath ends.
Yeah, in the car, yes.
Baby.
Yasmin used to try and sing that repeatedly in the car to annoy me, and the problem is she doesn't recognize that. Well, maybe she does now. She doesn't recognize that when you do that to me, it just means that I will gladly listen, enjoy it, and then do it to you right back. So
who does she think taught her how to be a troll in the first place? Like she's not your child? Come on.
So well, it's amazing to have the experience of your child trying that in the car, and then when we're out of the car, me walking into the house going, "Baby shark," and she's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Don't mess with the master."
Yeah, seriously. Come on, kid. Let's be real here. Come on. I mean, I can't wait to fuck with Theo when he gets older, but then he's going to turn around and try and mess with me and be like, "Oh, that's cute."
I actually messed with a patient like that today because she said, she's like, "You remind me of Urkel." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Did I do that?" And so she's like, "Well, there was also Stefan Urkel." I said, "Yeah, I know his alter ego." I said, "Yeah, he's the cooler one." I'm like, "That's okay. I'll take Steve any day. Stefan's a puppet." And she's just like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "You're weird. You know that?" I'm like, "Thank you. I've been told that all my life. Keep the compliments coming." It was surreal just to see someone's mind. Like they're like, "You're real. Like you're not getting insulted." I'm like, "Well, even if you insult me, what's the point? Like you're still locked in the hospital." I didn't say that. I didn't say
I
that.
know you didn't say that, but that's still just like the ultimate dick move, mic drop moment. Like, say what you want. I get to go home. Peace out, motherfuckers. So,
all right.
I'm going to end the broadcast here. So, thank y'all.